I was very interested this afternoon or this morning in Alex's picturing of the future, because in Africa, women in rural communities aren't going to say, oh, my life's going to be different because I've got an iPod. They're going to say, my life and my family's lives are going to be very different if we can have health. And so, people's futures are very, very different. And women and communities in Africa certainly are looking at a different kind of set of issues. But I think that the 4 words that spring to my mind over the 20 years that we've been doing Riders for Health are all the same. One's insanity, one's unreasonable, thinking like a biker, and also focus. So we're going to touch on a couple of those things in this presentation. You'll have seen this quote many times. It's actually always attributed to Albert Einstein, but I understand it was actually Rita Mae Brown who made this, the feminist and writer. So, but the thing about it is that we think when we look at women, if we can have the next slide, being taken to hospital in wheelbarrows, we think that's insane. We think that we've got to be able to do better than that in the 21st century. I mean, that's crazy. And it's unreasonable. And so we're often accused, in Riders for Health, and Barry and Andrea, are accused of being sort of insane. Who would start an organisation running transportation for health delivery in rural Africa when they've got small children and a mortgage to pay? I mean, we were pretty insane, but we thought that was unreasonable. We thought it was insane and it needed a similar response, so that's what we did. But the thinking like a biker, I think, is a funny way of looking at something, but nevertheless, we're motorcyclists, and for some people that might seem to mean something about freedom or being unconventional, but actually what it means to us is being very practical and really systematic and not worrying about dirty, oily hands or whether it seems intellectual or whether it, not worrying about all those things. Just think about the practical. How are you actually going to get this done? Think about processes and actually try and visualize an infrastructure that is not there. There is no infrastructure for managing transportation in rural Africa. So thinking like a biker for us is just about practicality and just picturing something that could be there and isn't there now. So then there's one other thing for me, and that's focus. And I think for me that's a more important word than anything else, because in Africa there's so much to do. You could do anything and everything and try and make a difference. But for us, looking at just the vehicles and just how you're going to get healthcare, all the healthcare that's out there for all of us living in a developed world is not available simply because it can't get to the people who need it. So for us, focus is really, really important. To do something, the one thing you're good at, the one thing you know how to do, the one thing understand, and do it really, really well. And speaking of doing it really well, I'll hand over to Barry because he's the one who does it really well.
Yes, one of the things you know about motorcyclists, because you've seen the imagery and jackets and the tattoos and everything, and one of the things you know about it is we're really stupid. And this is very, very helpful when it comes to tackling simple problems. You don't want to have a very complex approach to simple problems because you're going to be in a real mess. And what we've learned so far today is that the world is actually is girt about with really complex problems that call for very complex solutions. Happily, I don't have to think about this. As you see, I'm quite ancient and will soon be dying, so I don't have to worry. But I hope you've got this down, because it looks like it's pretty serious, and I hope you're going to sort it out. For me, you see, I'm a motorcyclist, so I don't have to think about much. So what we saw, actually, was the woman in the wheelbarrow and things like that, lots of things like that. And we saw all that. So we saw piles of broken motorcycles behind Ministry of Health buildings, and we saw the woman in the wheelbarrow. So something wrong with that picture. And you look at an engine, and of course now I'm afraid to tell you what the real answer is to looking after engines. You see, it's your fault with the shale oil and stuff. I know this is going to be a terrible problem, how to extract the last drop of oil out of the earth. But with the last drop, can we put it in motorcycles in rural healthcare in Africa? We don't half waste it on some other things. So that would be a good use of it. And here's the problem. The motorcycle engine, like all other engines, is a work organized by geniuses of one kind or another, but mainly by God and the Japanese. You see, they got this. These are the rules of nature, and the Japanese were listening when he told them. He said, listen, guys, this is how this works, okay? Oh, like that, okay. So they've made these wonderful engines. They are wonderful engines. They're completely in keeping with the laws of nature, God's laws of physics. I don't really believe in God in the ordinary way of things, but the more I think about, time goes on, I think about God, not because I am shortly to meet my Maker, but because I think he must be like this terribly disappointed Jewish mother, It just, I give them this stuff, look what they do, I give them carbon, I give them oil, and we just made such a mess of all these beautiful things. They never write, they never call. We don't... This must be awful. I mean, we do. So it gives us these great engines, and it gives us vaccines for stopping people having things like polio. Have any of you got polio? No, you haven't, have you? Because there's a simple, very, very, very cheap vaccine for polio. But lots of children all over the world, some people in Geneva call the kind of polio you get in Afghanistan and India endemic. If you get it, you don't care if it's endemic or not. It's all over the place. This species has lost control of this simple thing, though we have a vaccine. What's the answer? We don't put the vaccine in the children. It's a transport question. It's as simple as that. And there's problem after problem after problem. It has that simple solution in Africa, so we don't do it. How stupid can we be as a species? Even as a motorcyclist, I think that's a bit stupid. So in these vehicles, the wonderful engines, all it needs is a bit of oil. So what happens is you're a needy Ministry of Health, and then UNICEF come along and give you lots of vehicles, lots of engines and stuff, and lots of little books the Japanese send with these vehicles. Tells you when to change the oil. Until you don't do it, UNICEF don't know what oil is. It's not their fault about the shale, because they have no idea you have to put oil in the vehicles. So the answer to this, of course, is got to be local. It's no good having people coming from Maryland and California and places. Actually, nobody knows about oil there either, because that's all done by Jiffy Lube, so you don't have to know anything. So it's no good having people come and do that. It's not going to work. But we have, over the years, trained lots of people. And actually, we don't do it, because Andrea and I couldn't do any of that anyway. But a man called Dennis Chiminya, who's in charge of our technical stuff, does that. And Dennis and his team train people all over Africa to change the oil and the filters. And then the clever people, Dennis, for example, can put the vaccines and all the other things in the children. I know I'm coming to the end of time because Andrea is making that noise. So that's what happens if you do it right. Then that's in the Gambia, not us, but our team's geniuses. Do that right. The Gambia has the only health service in Africa that's fully mobile. So if you're a woman in threatening labour, you call up, somebody has a phone somewhere, one of those ambulances comes and takes you to a hospital. How difficult is that? It's taken 20 years to get people to pay a bit of attention to it, but actually all you have to do is put the oil in the engines. So it's not complicated. We already have the vaccines and all the things we need, midwives, all that stuff, women in threatening labour. It's all interventions, time and distance. 10 kilometres will do it, live or die. So that's it, really, I think. Let me see if there's another. There's health workers. It's not the Time's Up, it's Andrea, I can tell. You want to
Well, no, I think, this is the upshot of what we do. It means that people really can reach the rural communities and give the people the healthcare that they need. But I just, which thing?
That one.
That one. We just wanted to make sure that you know that what we think is you can't do anything unless you focus on it and if you do it really well. So that's our little mantra, that, you know, do it really well, just focus on the one thing and it won't get away from you. Thank you.